Well, in this episode today, folks, we are going to be talking about the old logo. Wow. Wow. And people thought that that issue was dead. No, it's not. No, it's not. And what does it also mean for a new stadium deal? Brandon will tie all of that in together, and we are going to get started right now. And welcome back to another video here on the Washington Football Maniacs channel. My name is Greg. I am your host, along with my partner in crime, Brandon Scott. And this channel, of course, is dedicated to news and commentary for the Washington Commanders. If you're down with that, please make sure that you subscribe to this channel. And when you do, also make sure you hit that notification bell so you won't miss any other video releases. So, training camp is going strong right now. We will cover that, and of course, we will be reporting on that in the next several videos as well. But we wanted to talk about something a little bit interesting that I don't think a lot of other YouTubers in Commanders Lands really touched on, and that is, it sounds like that the logo, the old logo, and the of course the designers and the family is finally going to be honored in a respectable way by the Washington Commanders. So, Brandon, uh, the family has been meeting with the Commanders and have been kind of negotiating, having talks, trying to figure out the best way to really honor them, to honor the design, and some. It seems like in a news article I read, the first line said the Commanders are planning a more permanent
Yeah.
way to honor the native heritage, but they didn't really go into detail of what they're going to do. Brandon, I mean, what do you think they're going to do as far as honoring them?
That's a really good question. Because I know looking at the report, this is through ABC 7 News, and he said that the commanders are planning a more permanent way to honor the native heritage of the old logo designer from the Blackfoot tribe this upcoming season. Ryan Wetzel, the grandson of Walter Blackie Wetzel, who designed the original logo that replaced the R 50 years ago, said the team now plans to honor his family in a more permanent way. So I would, right now you haven't heard much traction about what they plan on doing, but I think it's very refreshing. And the reason saying that is that, I think we both said it, many times that we get it, we're heading in a new direction, but you have to show, some kind of respect, to the past. This organization has a past, has a long storied history, and you can't just, overnight just walk forward and say, like it's North Korea, like it's ground zero, where there is no history. There was definitely a history. You know what I mean? So I definitely, I love it that they're finally deciding to honor, Mr. West's family, the logo, the history of this team. And like I said, obviously we're in a situation in America where the political atmosphere is very, very just, I mean, so many words to describe it. Um, but look, I always believed that there was a chance. And like I said, I get it. This is a hot topic, either for it or against it. I'm the type of person where I'm going to honor the past because, like I said, when I was a child up to a young man, I was a Redskins fan. And I get it. Dan Snyder made the change. A lot of people kind of say, it had to do with sponsors, this, and this. But I will say this, and I'm not going to get too in depth with politics, man. But if you look at certain things was going on, a lot of people within the realm of sports, not only just society period in sports, certain degree are fighting back. If you look at what happened with the Olympics, I'm not gonna get too much into it. I wasn't a big fan of it, but if you look at a lot of the sponsors said, look, enough's enough. There's power and a lot of these sponsors, there's power and money, man. So I mean, if you look at what's going on with this organization, I think that is a great move by Josh Harris and company to honor the past. Honor the look, this was a storied history for a long time. The Redskins were a powerful organization. And I get it, they try to turn in, the name where it's taboo and all that. We're not the only example. Obviously, if you look at the Cleveland Indians, now they're the Cleveland Guardians. There's been times where people said that Florida State should step back from being the Seminoles. The list goes on. But I think that right now, and like I said, I'm not going to get too political, but I'll say this, within sports, within American society, we need to find ways to unite. And the best way to unite is you definitely look forward to the future. You look forward to the new era, but you never forget about the past, man. Because What does history do? History teaches you something that, look, if you don't learn from history, you are deemed to repeat yourself. And you have to honor the past, because this organization became what it is now because of what they used to be. And and as far as this, people forget that this was a powerful organization. Jack King Cook carried weight that very few owners in the history of sports carried. I mean, he had connections going all the way up to the Capitol building. I mean, he carried power, and to see Dan Snyder kind of trudge his franchise under his foot and lose a lot of that power, because you see the loss of power, because now we're trying to do things like this to get the rights for the land around RFK, where it is being blocked right now. So I think that, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I think you do honor the family, you do honor the logo. So I think it's a beautiful thing. I really do. I think that it kind of in a certain way keeps everybody happy. For the people that are very connected to Redskins, the logo and stuff like that, honoring the past, I think, is definitely going to be a good thing as far as helping kind of accept the franchise going to a new direction. You still have the link to the franchise as far as the Redskins, the logo, um, and I think that Josh Harris is kind of dropping breadcrumbs a little bit, right? Obviously he knows that most of the fan base is not a favor of the Commander's name, but he also knows that going back to Redskins is probably not going to happen. So keep in touch with the past that keeps that connection to the Redskins without actually being the Redskins, but you still look forward to the future. And I think with if they decide to do a rebrand down the road, definitely approach it to get the fan base involved. Definitely see what the fan base wants to do. I think very little fans really wanted Commanders. I think a lot of us was Red Wolves. I mean, the Hogs was out there. The list goes on. So that's where I'm at, Greg. I think it's a good decision because you always honor the past, but and obviously you look forward to the future. And I think if we can bridge those two gaps together, I think not only can we find unity within this franchise, but American society, period, man. Because obviously, it's it's easier said than done because we're in an election year. So I see, that's going to be crazy in itself going to November, man. But we got to find ways to unite, man. And I think that we can start with the franchise and say, look, there's no problem honoring the past. You definitely do that because look, we were synonymous with being the Redskins. We were powerful as Redskins, and you can't just overnight erase that. But to look forward to the future, I think we need to bridge that gap, and I think that honoring what Mr. Wessel did, the contribution that he made, because that, let's be real, outside the Cowboys, I mean, the Redskins logo and name is synonymous out there. You can say it's a top 25 all time logo and name. Synonymous with the Yankees, the Cowboys. I mean, it's just one of those names where and logo that you just knew. Even if you weren't a football fan, you knew to watch the Redskins logo. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at, Greg. Honor the past. You definitely honor the past, and in doing so, you definitely keep a lot of people who wanted the old name back happy because you keeping it alive. You're showing respect to that part of the team's history that deserves respect, and then you can definitely keep the family happy, which they deserve that. The congressman, I forget what the gentleman's name is, but he'll be satisfied. He'll be able to take the restrictions away from the land around RFK. So we went on that deal because we can bring the team back into DC. And then, like I said, for the people that kind of want to close the door in the past, look towards the future, which I'm not saying is a bad idea, but we need to bridge that together. Everybody's happy. And I think that's the biggest goal to look at is that everybody's satisfied. So I think it's a good decision because I think that, it's inevitable. You had to show some kind of respect to the lineage of this team at some point. And I think that now that they're finally doing it, I'm very, very happy, man.
Yeah, and I totally get the idea of you got to move forward and you can't live in the past and what's done is done. You do tend to get a lot of, and this is probably honestly, I've spoke with a lot of Washington fans that are local around here, and every single one of them doesn't matter what race, creed, color, all this stuff. They all tend to say that I miss Redskins. I don't call them Commanders. I when they see me wearing like a shirt with the old logo on it, they just point to it and it just it brightens their face up. They love it. It's like, oh man, I'm such a big fan too, and and a lot of times I'll ask them about what'd you think about changing the name and stuff, and they're like, hated it. And so it's not just like a particular you know section or sect of people who hated it. It's a lot of people, different backgrounds and things like that. So I think being able to figure out how to honor the designers, the family that were honored for so many years, you're talking about a logo that they won, that they went to Super Bowls sporting, and won Super Bowls and all their glory years and things like that. And let's face it, when it comes to sports, especially when it comes to like team sports like football, where you don't really see the face a whole lot. You see what do you see? You see the logos on the helmets more, and people gravitate to that. It's not a stupid thing. It's just it's a human thing, and people gravitate to what they're accustomed to, and a lot of people were so accustomed to that iconic logo. I mean, there's some what I consider very timeless photos of past players, and it seems like what do you see? What do you notice? That big Chief logo on their helmet, and as you can see behind me, I still sport it, and I always sport it. Because I think for one thing, I don't have any Native American blood in me whatsoever. At least I don't think so, but I felt that it was a way to keep the Native Americans honored, and in the forefront. And I think, and again, I'm not trying to be political either, but I think that a lot of times you do have certain people who, the ones who scream racism the loudest are the ones who, at the same time, want to dispel anything that has to do with Native Americans. It's like they don't want to see the imagery at all because it's offensive. Well, who's being offended? Is that sort of racism being shown toward Native Americans? Because Native Americans, like, they want to be able to be recognized because they were the native people here, indigenous people here, that should be able to be honored in a way. And yes, you are always going to get a certain group of them, very liberal groups, who get paid off by some of these interest groups to try to go against it because that's their agenda for whatever. But I'm excited about this. I don't know how they're going to honor him. I don't know if it's going to be something where they're going to put a big flag with the chief logo in the stadium. I mean, that would be a start. I would honestly, Brandon, I would like to see the logo back on the uniforms or helmets. Honestly, I mean, it may not make sense right now because the team right now is, they're the Commanders. I'm not sure how Commanders can go back to Native Americans, how that ties back. I don't know. But I'm like, why not? I mean, that would really, honestly, people don't realize how much that logo means to folks. And, so to say that, well, you need to just get over it and move on, it's all in the past. Why? I mean, why should that be in the past? Um, Again, I think it honors Native Americans, and we're seeing a family that has been screaming about it since the logo was, in my mind, stupidly retired by Dan Snyder, who fell to corporate greed or whatever. And so I'm glad that Josh Harris is doing something to honor. I mean, he's a Redskins. He grew up a Redskins fan, right? So, yeah, we could say Dan Snyder did as well, but Harris is doing a whole lot more here lately to honor, I think, the franchise than what Dan Snyder ever did. So, he's doing something to honor them, and if it's permanent, that's what I just want to know. What type of permanent honor? Is it going to be a statue? We don't have a good track record with erecting statues. I didn't really. The Sean Taylor one was kind of odd, but so I hope it's not a statue. I would really rather it be the actual logo, somewhere on the uniform. Maybe it's on the sleeve or something like that. Maybe it's like on the other side opposite of where they normally put the captain logo on the front. I mean, why not honor it? Because I think then it's going to help bring back some of those old fans who have not wanted to, frankly, have much of a part of the team because of all these changes. So, yeah, you're going to hear some folks are like, get over it. What's done is done, and all that. But honestly, that is not the same attitude that the majority of Washington fans have. Majority of us hated the name change and would love to see everything kind of go back to what it represented, what it was. It doesn't have to be the Redskins name if that is considered racist. Although I will say, if you really want to get technical, there's a lot of Native Americans who will tell you the actual truth story of how that term came to be, and it's not what some people really thought. If you do a little research, you'll figure out where it really came from. But besides that, though, I also, being able to satisfy those politicians who want to kind of block things. Senator Daines, of course, he was one of the ones who wanted to see a return of the Wetzel's family's place in the franchise, certainly the logo. I can't be mad at him over that. I think, I mean, in a way, I am a little kind of like, why do these politicians have to stick their nose in sports all the time? But I guess when I agree with them, it's just fine. It's just fine. But being able to open up and free up that land at RFK, that's where this team belongs. They don't belong anywhere else. As much as I'd love to see them in Virginia, they don't really belong in Virginia. They belong in D.C., right? They're Washington. They represent D.C. They do represent everybody who's around that DMV area, as well as areas south who love Washington. And maybe somewhere a little bit up north, but probably not too much because then you start running into Ravens fans. But I just they belong to DC, so I hope that this almost like kills two birds with one stone, right? You're bringing back the old logo in some form or fashion. We don't know yet to honor them. It says permanent, so again, I want to see what they do. I'd be a little disappointed if it's just like a statue or something like that. I want it to be, if it's going to be displayed in the stadium, it needs to be displayed where you see it on TV all the time. And I think maybe I will feel a little bit better about that. But I don't want it to be somewhere where it's like, oh, well, you got to go visit the stadium and it's this, it's this statue that's in one of the sweet boxes and you got to pay money to go see it. To me, that's not honoring the team. I'm not honoring the family, and it's not honoring the fans who, love all the imagery. So anyway, I'll be curious to know what happens with that. I know you will as well, and I'll be following that a little bit more. But of course, a lot of people are really, they want to hear more about training camp. And like I said, we will get into this in upcoming videos as well. But quickly, Brandon, what have you learned so far in training camp?
Oh man, a lot of work, man, a lot of progress in training camp. It's going to be a fun team to watch. A few position groups to look at. Cornerback, Manuel Forbes. We kind of covered this with a previous video. 17 pounds and counting he has gained, and he has shown a lot more aggression, a lot more explosiveness. And right now he looks like he could be in the mix for number one and number two as far as cornerback position with Benjamin St. Juice. So we'll see how that corresponds with Mike Davis. Is Mike Davis now number three? And I'll say this about Manuel Forbes. We knew he was a ball hawk coming out of the SEC. Now, what was the biggest things we wanted to see from him? Gain some weight and be more aggressive. He's done that. So he's put the work in. So I think he could, definitely be a sleeper, definitely a player to watch this year, because if he can match the ball hawking skills with, getting in there, with a lot more weight, getting in and tackling people, being more aggressive, then we could finally start to see why they, chose to pick him in the first round. And, Benjamin St. Juice really has a lot more pressure than Emmanuel Ford, because he's going to show where he really fits long-term with the Commanders. But a lot of good work of Emmanuel Forbes, a lot of high marks. Brandon Coleman, he has been playing at left tackle and right tackle. So right now, it looks like he very well could be right tackle. So definitely frees up time. Maybe City Charles. We'll see what direction they go at left tackle, but right now it's not permanent, it's not cemented. Because you very well could see Brandon Coleman go to left tackle, but he's shown that he's another sleeper pick in his draft. Where you're looking at this draft, a lot of people is kind of up and down. Either you loved it or you hated it, but I think we all can agree that this draft was, a lot of these guys were future picks. Mike Sandstrom, another guy where he could be starting out at slot corner, man, and he looks good. And Nick Saban's one of those guys in college that said he was the best player in this draft. So Mike Samstrom's another guy that's been playing good ball. So a lot of high marks as far as with the Commanders in training camp right now. A lot of high marks. Another guy I heard a lot of news with is Austin Eckler. People saying he's got some juice left in the tank, man. Like he can still play. He's still got some elusiveness to him. So this running back room is going to look really good because I think that this year you definitely want to see Brian Robinson finally hit that 1,000-yard mark. But Austin Eckler is going to push him. And I think that he's definitely going to be very active in third downs, passing downs. But look, this offense, if you combine the tools, we have an offense with Cliff Kingsbury. This is going to be a fun team to watch next year. And defensively, we're going to be a lot better, man. So that's pretty much the biggest news I've seen. Quan Martin, real quick before we move on, looks like he could be the starter. Quan Martin has looked good enough in training camp to they're looking at him and Chen as the safeties right now. So, and that's definitely good news because, a lot of people were wondering, what is the long-term picture with Quan Martin? He's shown enough in training camp. Now, obviously, look, we're going to see a clearer picture of where these guys are at once we get into preseason, where you actually see some game action. But this team looks revitalized. You feel an energy in the building that you didn't feel underneath Dan Snyder. These guys are coming out and Adam Peterson did a good job bringing in new blood into this team, and especially on the defensive side, man. Joe Wood Jr. is a guy that I'm looking at coaching wise. Is what can he do with these pieces? Because Chen looks good as safety. Obviously you got Bobby Wagner. Louvu's another guy to take a look at because Louvu's going to be a beast at the linebacker group. And a real quick before we move on, Jamin Davis. It's been up and down for him, and there's a lot of pressure on him right now because they've been putting him on the end, attacking the quarterback a lot more. And because he's kind of been a detriment in the passing defense, so he's a player that you've seen some energy, you see some growing pains, but it behooves Jamin Davis to figure it out because to kind of remind people they did not pick up his fifth-year option, so he's got to show what he can do this season attacking the quarterback. And I think that if he can do that, he can stick around. If not, we'll see. But overall, Greg, a lot of good news in training camp. These guys are really doing well. Like I said, very few people are struggling. So, like I said, they're having fun. They're out there. This coach staff is pushing them, and you're going to see a different product on the field next season.
Yeah, I was going to comment on Jamie Davis as well because I also heard that it was kind of up and down for him, and he's got to be able to translate into that edge rusher position because if not, I I hate to say this, but I have kind of marked him as a possible surprise cut, which is weird to say because him being a number one pick or first round pick a few years back. So and like you said, his fifth year option was not picked up. So it's do or die for Jamie Davis. He's got to be able to do it, and if he can't, he could be on the outside looking in. But the cream of the crop. That's what you're looking for, and that's who you want to have starting on your team. So I like that. I also like it. It does feel like this coaching staff is again they're trying to put people in the positions to succeed, but also they're having healthy competition. They're really I think they're going to be very successful with making who they have on the team right now a lot better and putting them in positions to win. There's one thing that John Keim had commented on in his podcast was at the beginning. He said, this coaching staff, they kind of talked about how, like Eric Bieniemy did certain things in training camp last year, and what was the reasoning behind it? Well, it's what we did in Kansas City, and so that's what we're going to do here. And it's just that it's kind of the comment of like you got to be able to see what you have, and you got to be able to mold and not necessarily compromise, but you got to be able to work with what you have and to change things up a little bit, whatever you need to do to make things successful. And you can't always put square peg in a round hole, right? And so what works in Kansas City may not work in Washington. Obviously, it didn't, and I don't think it translated to the players very well. This coaching staff tends to bring a whole different direction and energy to the players, and I think they really appreciate it. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see. I will be excited to watch a little football in a couple of weeks or so, and just see what this team looks like for the first time. Not Jamie Davis, but Jaden Daniels splitting time with Marcus Mariota as well, starting. So I think we all kind of feel like Jaden Daniels will probably be the starter. I think nobody would be very excited to see Marcus Mariota starting week one. But, at the same time, let's put the best players out there. We know that Jaden Daniels is going to be the guy. It is funny. Somebody I posted on Twitter today a pass that Jaden Daniels threw like way behind his tight end. His tight end made like a very remarkable adjustment to catch the football. But of course, this person being a Philadelphia Eagles fan, they were like, his ball placement is trash, and it's like, yeah, you're going to watch that one pass and say his ball placement is trash, but then you start to look at, if you looked at this video a little bit over and over again, you see that defender was right there, so if he had thrown the pass perfectly, it would have been picked off. So he tried to throw it around the defender in a place where either his tight end was going to catch it or was going to be incomplete. And so it's funny how you're going to have these boo birds out here. You see what I did there, Eagles fans, boo birds, and just already going to try to trash the Commanders' a quarterback, and I'm like, just wait. I think this guy's going to be something special. I hope, and you may not necessarily see it this year because he's going to be a rookie. You can't expect a lot from rookies, but let's see what I think he's going to be. I think it's going to be something special. So, anyway, I had to comment on that because Jaden Daniels, of course, he's been putting in the time, he's been putting in the work. Let's see what happens. I'll be very excited to see him, although I don't think you're going to see him much in the preseason. And if you're Joe Theismann, old Joe would say, I don't want to see him at all in preseason. I'm like, oh, okay. But hey, he's a quarterback, so he's a legend, just like us. So, I'll go with what Joe says. But anyway, so folks, yes, coming up in more videos, we're going to be talking about training camp. Hopefully, it's going to be more about how players are developing. Hopefully, we're not going to be having videos on somebody getting hurt or any bad things happening because that's been going on in the league. We've had some players like from Minnesota tearing ACLs already. So we want these players to be healthy, and we want training camp to really build up those players who are supposed to be starters, and also the players who are going to be coming in on rotation as well. So we're going to be covering all of that. Brandon, what else do you got before we leave?
Oh, I'm good, man. Kind of iterate a few things. Going back to the whole kind of showing homage to the past. Here's the thing about all that, man. And I'm gonna keep it short. I'm gonna get into it too much, but usually the group of people who are supposed to be outraged usually don't have a problem. It's usually a whole other group that is outraged for them. And I think that if you look at, like I said, I'm biracial, man. Like I'm half German, half Nigerian. My black family members love the name Redskins. They were not in favor of Commanders. Whiteside did not like the rebrand. So I think that we need, when you look at the scope of that, is, if it's so racist, why is it there's so many people that, so many different groups of people have no problem with it. You know what I mean? So I was just one of those things. Like I said, I look forward to them honoring the past. I think we need to honor the past. I think it is deserving to do so. And then getting into training camp, it's really refreshing to see new energy in the building. Like I said, you're starting to see pay dirt with a lot of players. Quan was a guy we didn't know really to expect from. Now he could be the starter. So right now we're not a team who's rebuilding, but we're not ready to compete yet. But we're gonna be fun to watch. And I think that this is gonna be a special season because look, a lot of things coming up, y'all. We're going to honor the Redskins logo in the family. You're looking at, they're going to retire Dale Green's number. I'm going to be there for that game. I'm looking forward to it. It is about time they did so. And like I said, you're going to see a team that's going to be not a bad team to watch. Like I said, Jay Daniels has improved me not only on the field, but off the field. He's got the mind of a grown man. Like I said, he's approaches the best way. He wants to earn the job outright. He doesn't want anything handed to him. And I think that finally, Lord have mercy, Greg. Finally, we have competency at every level in this organization, and it's been a long time since we've been able to say that. So I'm excited, and I'm just going to leave with that.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is no longer your Dan Snyder's Washington team. This is this is a new era. We've been saying it since last year, and it's going to happen, folks. Things are looking up. There's going to be upgrades to the stadium. They're investing in the stadium because obviously it may take a little bit longer before a new stadium is born. So they're going to try to make you as comfortable as possible in the existing stadium. Hopefully, we're going to have the logo around here in some form of fashion, the old one back, and we have an exciting new quarterback to look at, exciting new coaching staff. There's a lot. There's a lot to be looking forward to. So, folks, just sit back and enjoy the ride because at the end, when this team finally gets to that championship, and I think they will, and if they are able to snag that championship, you'll look back and say, wasn't just the championship, it was the journey to get back there. I think I remember Charles Mann saying that in one of their Super Bowl specials. So it is true. It's that journey. You look back and it's like, wow, I can't believe somehow it all came back together. So, folks, just sit back and enjoy it. Hey, we're out of time, so we're going to head on out. But please, again, if you enjoy the content here on the Washington Football Maniacs, please, again, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. And when you do, hit that notification bell. We also got channel memberships. If you want to really support us, we would be very much appreciative to that. There's going to be a lot of cool things that we're going to be doing as the season progresses. We'll have some more live content coming your way as well, so you're going to want to tune in for that. But folks, just tune in again next time for more Washington football. I started to say Washington Football Maniacs content. I guess I could say that. I guess I could. I was going to say Commanders, but anyway, folks, have a good night. We will talk to you later.